As Donald Trump's threat of tariffs continue to hang over the country, leaders at all levels of government will play a part in Canada's response. And that also includes big city mayors. Let's bring in our Ottawa correspondent, Glen McGregor. So, Glen, several mayors are meeting today. What's on the agenda?
Yeah, the Prime Minister has met throughout his time in office with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and the big city mayors repeatedly. Usually those discussions involve kind of sharing resources. Are there ways that the federal government could help the cities, quite often with infrastructure issues, building more transit, that kind of thing. This meeting today will likely to be Justin Trudeau's last with the big city mayors here in Ottawa, and the topic of the discussion will be dominated by the tariffs. The mayors are going to be looking for information from the Prime Minister about where things stand right now. There's a lot of ambiguity about this pause in the tariffs, this 30-day pause that President Donald Trump agreed to, and the negotiation period that's going to go on between now and then. So the mayors are going to be kind of looking for some details of what that negotiation might entail. Is it a full rethink of the USMCA, the new NAFTA agreement, or is there something else being discussed? And the mayors are crucially going to want to know what that means for them in terms of their resources. Some of the mayors were pretty active during the last couple of weeks over this dispute with the United States. We heard Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow, for example, talking about some of the things that her city could do, particularly on the procurement front, to kind of retaliate against the U.S. And Toronto was prepared to, revisit its policy on buying goods and buy Canadian as well. Chow has been quite outspoken about that. Drew Dilkens, who's the mayor of Windsor, will be here today. We also expect to hear from some of these mayors a little after lunchtime to talk about it. For Dilkens, this is a very important local issue as well, because there's probably no other city in the country that is affected in the same way that Windsor, Ontario is, given just the enormous amount of trade that goes back and forth between Windsor and Detroit across the Ambassador Bridge, really key to keeping the auto sector going. And we saw this back in 2022 with the Freedom Convoy and the blockage of that border crossing, what an enormous effect it had on the auto industry. Tariffs are seen as kind of the same way, a little bit of a wall. So the Prime Minister is going to have to kind of assure the mayors what the federal government's plan is over the next months and discuss any particular issues that may be specific to municipalities. We think a lot of these problems with tariffs and the economics effects they imposed would have ultimately filtered down to cities. You would see more people, more unemployment, more homelessness, potentially more drug use, other issues that the cities are facing. There's another sort of collision today, though, of federal and municipal politics I want to tell you about. Soraya Martinez Ferrada, not exactly a household name. She's a Liberal MP from Montreal. She's also the tourism minister. She announcing today that she is not going to run for re-election in her riding whenever the next election comes, probably this spring. She's instead going to contest for the mayoralty of Montreal. The current incumbent, Valérie Plante, not running again, so that position is open. A little bit of news there. And then I should tell you, Faiza, tomorrow the Prime Minister is coming to Toronto for another round of consultations, more meetings, this time with his Council on U.S.-Canada Relations, but really wants to bring in other voices from the business community in Toronto. So that's one we're going to be covering as well tomorrow on 24/7. Faiza.
Alrighty then, another week of non-stop meetings. Our Glen McGregor in Ottawa. Glen, thank you so much.